Hello, David Paul here. I'm in a mall, in a far-flung corner of the mall. It's called Yerzano Mall, Toril, in Toril. Now Toril is an outskirt of Davao, sort of what you would call the suburbs. And there were quite a lot of poor houses here. But Davao has got richer, and it's got these suburbs are starting to improve and so on. But one of the key things that they have out here is, because things are more spread out, is they have vegetation, which the city centre doesn't have. Now, I'm into climate modification. That might sound rather extreme, but it can be done on a microclimate sort of way in the bit that you live in. So all you have to worry about is your house if you're going to live here. So I'm now outside on a sort of, I don't know, sitting area or whatever. But it's like where there is a coffee shop, and I'm going to go to that coffee shop and have a cup of coffee. One thing you must do in the Philippines if you're a foreigner is get some aircon. I don't mean like buy some aircon, I mean every day just go and pop in somewhere that has aircon, and it will reduce your body temperature and it makes life livable. Now, I just come out here and I thought, oh my God, this reminds me of home. And it reminds me of the great potential of Portugal as well. So this here reminds me of my home in the municipality of Penella. It's a bit greener and a bit more lush, but it's beautiful, and they're both beautiful. So what's interesting about this place is there are lots and lots and lots and lots and loads more trees. And I'm standing outside here and it's a lot more comfortable. So why is that? Well, trees provide shade, but I'm above it all. I'm not being shaded by the trees or anything. There's a bit of cloud cover here, which is helping a bit. But the fundamentals are that I got this last year, I realised, when I was buying a thing called toffee banana, which is a sort of banana fried in syrup and stuff like that. Delicious, but like far too sweet and too many carbohydrates, but a nice treat. And I stepped forward to buy the toffee banana and asked for them, and then I realised, I thought, oh my God, what happened? It just went suddenly cool. And what it was is I was standing underneath a mango tree, so I looked up, and this mango tree had every photon of light blocked out, just completely blocked out. Now you can go on you can go on YouTube and just put in a search on light as therapy. And one of the key things I mentioned there is it's good to be out in nature, because you're receiving infrared radiation, which is good for the body, within limits. But it's, you know, it's just too much here, you know, so you'll just get it accidentally. You'll get your dose accidentally without having to make an effort. In fact, you want to be avoiding it because it's eating you up too much here. So anyway, there's the infrared. So what it mentioned in the video is the fact that being out in nature, the leaves of trees and everything reflect infrared radiation. Well, if you're in a grove of trees in the middle and the trees are on the sides of you, this radiation is going to be reflected towards you, bouncing off and hitting you and doing you good, you know. But of course, if they're good reflectors of infrared radiation, then that obviously means that they are also capable of reflecting it upwards. So some of it's getting bounced onto you, but an awful lot of it is getting bounced upwards into the sky. And yes, I know water vapor and carbon dioxide bouncing some of it back, but it would be good to have a highly reflective surface on the surface of the earth with regard to infrared radiation. That would be helping if you were sending more that way than, or at least a large proportion backward into space. And so therefore the very existence of the trees is throwing heat back into space, just like that. The last thing you want to do is have land which does not have vegetation on it. So things like deserts and stuff, you don't have the minimum of those, because they're going to go crazy on heat. Now, I had an argument with somebody on YouTube, my comments and his comments and so on, and he was basically stating that if you plant a load of trees, you're going to create a nice environment for us in one spot, and the heat is going to be transferred somewhere else. And this is an argument that people make, but I think it's nonsense personally, because what happens to the heat that the trees receive? What do they do with it, you know? What was that mango tree doing with the heat? Well, it was reflecting some of it back into space, but it does have some quantity of absorption and an absorption coefficient, and it's got to do something with the heat. The leaves are going to get hot and they're just going to fry. They're just going to go crazy. So one of the tricks that tropical trees do, or trees subject to a lot of radiation, is they hang vertically, so that the surface area, instead of being perpendicular to the sun, that actually it's bouncing downwards and it's spread over a bigger area. That helps them a lot, and yet they can still stand it. So what do? Well, what they do is they convert the heat into something. They do a little bit of photosynthesis, that's negligible, but what they do is they suck up water and they evaporate the water, and that is their way of dumping all this energy. So okay, you've evaporated a load of water. What are we talking about here? Well, at the tropics, the value of solar insolation, amount of sun coming in, is round about 1 kilowatt. Okay, but it's going to take, so in an hour you're going to have a kilowatt hour. But if you evaporate off, don't quote me on this, but if you evaporate off 1 litre of water, that's about a kilowatt hour being just pumped away there. It's a very big figure. Water is terrible stuff, you know, for either A, heating up, or B, evaporating the stuff. You know, if you want to distill water, man, it's going to take a lot of energy. And this is a bonus. This is a bonus in this situation, because the trees are able to use the water as their air conditioning system and produce water vapor. So the place is quite humid here, and what happens to the water vapor? Well, it floats up into the sky. Okay, so the water vapor is up in the sky. Well, it's cold up in the sky, and the reason it's cold up in the sky is because heat is getting radiated out into space, and without the thick insulation of the atmosphere, heat's getting radiated out into the space and lost. Okay, so now what you've done is you've taken that, you put the water vapor into the sky, you've stuffed it into a cooling system, which is wonderful, because the universe is only around about 4 degrees, and you just lose all that heat like crazy. What's going to happen to the water? Well, it's going to freeze, or it's going to just turn to liquid water, and it'll start falling out of the sky. So in the evening, guess what happens? The evenings, mostly in the Philippines, bang, 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 lots of thunder and lightning, and it almost arrives on cue once the sun goes down, and the water all pours back down to earth. So we have loads and loads of water available to us. This country does not have water shortage problems, and it's all available there to be re-evaporated off. Now, an interesting point, we're now in the middle of an El Nino event, and yet it's not particularly hot here. It went up to 32 degrees the other day, which is no big deal to me. So the last time I was, well, not the last time, but a long time ago, the first time rather, that I came here, it was, I did a trip here and I did another trip here. No, I think it was the very first time. We were in the middle of an El Nino event, and it was just post-Marcos era, the Ferdinand Marcos, when he got deposed, and the country was desperately poor. It was really poor country then, and the temperature went up and up and up and up, and people were walking around, they were like nearly on their knees, Filipinos. I was getting into taxis and the aircon was barely coping and I was barely alive, even though I had the aircon. We were sleeping all day, just people were just keeling over like trees and landing on the floor or anywhere, because our brains were getting overheated, and this went on day after day after day. And that was an El Nino event, so I thought, oh my God, I'm coming back in an El Nino, what's going to happen now? So I come back, and this time that didn't happen. So what's going on? What's the difference? Well, the difference, as far as I can see, is that since that time they've introduced logging bans, which are protecting the trees in the uplands. People are also growing more tree crops, things like palm oil and stuff, on land that was just agricultural land before, so there's more trees there. There are, in particular, there's been a massive increase in the number of trees grown for paper, and those trees are called falcata. They're basically like a big balsa tree, and they're completely useless. The wood is not very good at all, unless you want some balsa or something. But what it is used for is the paper mill industry. But these things get up really quick. You can plant them and then woof, in 10 years they're up. And it's 25 years I've been coming here. So there's a massive increase one way or another. Whatever kind of a tree it is, there are more trees here. And the place has got richer. And lo and behold, look, outside of buildings like this, I used to say, you need more trees, you've got to plant more trees. And this sort of, it is happening just because people like them for ornamental purposes. But personally, I would have it such that there were so many trees that the sun never hit the sidewalk or the sidewalk, or even the road itself, and that would stop this heat island thing even further. So I think this country has got great potential to manage its environment and make it a more agreeable place for people to live in. You know, it's all possible. We're not supposed to live in like a hellish place, you know. We're supposed to figure out how to do it. Even Alaska, you know, you do things there, you wear appropriate clothing and you got log fires and stuff. We as a human species, we can adapt and optimize our environment for living, and actually improve the planet itself for life, because all of the CO2 that there is in the atmosphere, it was never this verdant before, you know, and I'm convinced that is due to the higher CO2 levels. So maybe a bit controversial, but I see it and I feel it, and I've experienced it for myself. So anyway, Atilago, makita tayo sa kana. Goodbye, and Jesus be with you. I'm trying to do it in 3 languages because I'm trying to culture my posse in all 3 places. So, Jesus be with you. Bye.